What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 108. We have Tatsuro Taira going against Hong Sung Park. We are back in the Apex. It feels like it's been a while since we've been in the Apex, but we're back, and we actually have back-to-back Apex cards this week and next week, which should be fun and exciting. But yeah, looking forward to this card. It's an interesting one. It's kind of a weird one from a DraftKings perspective. It's a card where we're kind of missing a mid-range a little bit. We don't have an 8,300, 7,900 matchup. We don't have an 8,200, 8,000 matchup. So the mid-range is kind of interesting this week and just an interesting card overall. Looking forward to breaking it down from a DraftKings perspective. Before we do so, if you guys could, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very long way. If you want to support me more or if you want more content, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find the rest of my content, betting, DraftKings, etc. This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. Right now, if you go to PrizePicks, use code DFSBTA, and you'll get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. Whether your lineup wins or loses, you'll get $50 instantly into your PrizePicks account. Free money. Go check it out. Use that code DFSBTN. It is always much appreciated. All right. I say we get into it. We're going to start with the fight doesn't go to decision lines. We have Mateusz Rebecki going against Chris Duncan, minus 210 for the fight doesn't go to decision. And yeah, not a lot of fights that are heavily expected to finish this week. The most likely fight, according to the odds, to finish inside the distance is going to be this fight. And I could see a scenario where this fight does go the distance, but you know, these are two guys who have both never lost by decision. Mateusz Rebecki's been finished in both of his losses, two by knockout, and then Chris Duncan's been submitted before, and Chris Duncan's been knocked out before. So, yeah, I like Rebecki here in this matchup. He's currently sitting at 9,000 on DraftKings, but Chris Duncan's one of those guys that, I don't know, he's been cashing as an underdog twice in a row. He was a pretty big underdog against Vucenic, decent-sized underdog against Pelagioki, and he was able to get guillotines in both those matches, but I'm just not convinced it's going to happen a third time here. So I like Rebecki, but you know, Chris Duncan could be worth a pump play down low just because he seems to be one of those guys that can just find a way to win. Next, we have Rodolfo Vieira going against Tresean Gore. Minus 200 for the fight doesn't go to decision. I'm actually picking this fight to go to decision. It's a weird one. It's a really weird fight because Rodolfo Vieira, he does have a 100% finish rate, but you know, Tresean Gore, he's not really great at much, but what he is pretty physically strong. He has really good takedown defense. He's a BJJ black belt in his own right, I believe, and I just kind of have a funny feeling that this fight could play out on the feet a lot more than people are thinking, and if that's the case, I just don't really think it's going to score all that well. Of course, if Vieira does get on top of Gore, he's probably going to submit him, right, but I feel like this fight could take place standing a little bit, so it's not a fight that I'm in love with from a DraftKings perspective, but if I was to play anybody, it's probably Vieira just because I can't really get to Tresean Gore. He just doesn't throw anything, and it's hard to imagine him scoring well. Next, we have a fight that I do think is a great one to target. It is Andre Pulev going against Nick Klein, minus 200 for the fight doesn't go to decision. We don't really have a mid-range this week. This is the most mid-range matchup of the card. 8,400 for Pulev, 7,800 for Klein. And yeah, I think the winner probably does score well. I think this fight probably finishes inside the distance. I could see it being like a greasy fight that does go 15, but yeah, Klein does have submission upside, takedown upside. I think Klein actually has most of the finishing upside, but I could see a scenario where Pulev is able to maybe get a late finish here down the stretch. I'm personally leaning towards the Klein side at 7,800. There's not a ton of dogs I like on this card from a DraftKings perspective, but Klein is one of them at that price tag of 7,800 there. And then the main event, Tatsuro Taira going against Hong Sung Park. Definitely a main event I like, but I do like the Taira side quite a bit this week, 9,200. It's a big step up in competition for Hong Sung Park. I think it's going to be kind of like a levels fight here. I think the fight's going to hit the mat at some point, and once it does, I think Tatsuro Taira is just going to show that he's just a much better fighter. So yeah, I like Taira here, but Park, he's dangerous. Park has, I believe, a 90% finish rate. He has power, good submission game. I just don't really love the matchup for him personally. Getting into the core plays here, we have Austin Bashi at 9,600. So what I like about Bashi this week is, so DK, as of late, they've kind of been just way overpricing the big favorites, right? So they've been making fighters 9,900, 9,800, etc. But with Bashi here, he's a minus 800 favorite, but he's only 9,600. So yes, it's expensive, but I think it's definitely warranted, and I think it's definitely playable. He's taking on John Giannis, who just can't stuff a takedown, who's been submitted before, who's been put in a bunch of bad spots. I think Bashi kind of runs through John Giannis here and gets a submission. So I like Bashi quite a bit at 9,600. Up next, we have Piera Rodriguez, 8,700. I think Rodriguez is a sneaky play this week. She's going against Ketlin Souza, who is a decent fighter, but Ketlin Souza can't really stuff a takedown. We saw Angela Hill take her down a couple times, even Marnik Mann, of all people, take her down a couple times, and I think Rodriguez, she can go out there and get a lot of takedowns. I mean, she got 8 takedowns in her last fight against Josephine Knudsen, and I could see something similar here. Rodriguez, she's a black belt, she's a good grappler, she's not a bad striker, but I think it's going to be that wrestling, the takedowns, the control that can have her score pretty well here at 8,700. Next, we got Eliza Zaleski dos Santos, 8,800. For Zaleski here, I'm just looking for that finish upside. If this fight does go 15 minutes, he might not even win the fight. But I just feel like he does have some finish upside here against Neil Magny, who Magny is getting up there in age. Magny has not looked great the last several years. Magny's been finished 10 times, 4 by knockout, 6 by submission. If this fight hits the ground, I think Zaleski's very live for a sub. And if this fight's on the feet, at range, at distance, I don't think Magny has much of a chin anymore. So yeah, that's going to give Zaleski opportunities here, whether it's a knockout, whether it's a sub. And if he does get the job done, I think it is inside the distance. And 8,800 is not a bad price tag for that. And then Tatsuro Taira, we talked about it, 9,200. I just think it's a levels fight. It's a big jump up in the competition for Hong Sung Park. And, it's a big jump up. I mean, going from guys like Shannon Ross and Carlos Hernandez and Sung Guk Choi to Tatsuro Taira, who just went life and death with Brandon Royval, who's a top 3 flyweight. So yeah, I definitely think that, Park's a solid fighter. It's just I feel like Tatsuro Taira, he's been there, he's done that, he's been 5 rounds. Park's a guy that's only even seen the 3rd round once. So yeah, I think Taira is going to eventually get this fight to the ground and find a submission here. Up next, we have the GBP Plays here, Rafael Estevam, 9,500. Yeah, I think this is another solid fight to target. Estevam, 9,500. And what I like about Estevam is he's a grappler, and he knows that. There's been a ton of grapplers lately that forget how to grapple, I guess. I mean, I just don't understand what some of these guys are and ladies are doing out there, recently. Like, if you're a grappler, you should probably go out there and grapple, right? But no, that's not been the case. But Estevam's a grappler, and he knows he's a grappler. He's not going to go out there and strike with you. He's going to go for a takedown probably within the first, 15 to 30 seconds. So I like Estevam here. He has potential to get a lot of takedowns, a lot of control time, and I actually think Estevam is very live to get his first UFC finish. He was not able to finish Charles Johnson, who is pretty much unfinishable, and he was also not able to finish Jesus Aguilar, who's also a very tough dude. But this guy, Felipe Bunis, I don't think he has the best cardio. Felipe Bunis has been finished 3 times, so I think a finish is on the table for Rafael Estevam here. Mateusz Rebecki, 9,000. Yeah, I like Rebecki here. I just think he's the better fighter. I think he's better everywhere. I think he's going to be both the minute winner and moment winner in the striking. Same thing with the grappling. I can see him getting takedowns here, potentially getting a submission. I can really see Rebecki winning this fight by any method, KO, decision, or submission. Duncan, he's pulled off some upsets as of late, but, I'm not sure that trend's going to continue here against Mateusz Rebecki, who's just a lot better than Jordan Vucenic, who's a lot more proven, a lot more tested than a guy like Balaji Oki. I'm not sure he's going to get guillotined here. So I like Rebecki. 9,000 is not too bad in my opinion. And then Rodolfo Vieira, 8,900. I don't hate Vieira, so I could see this going one of 2 ways. Either Vieira is going to score very good with the first round submission, or he's going to score very terribly with like a decision, greasy type win. So yeah, I'm going to be playing some Vieira this week just in case he is able to take down Tresean Gore. If he's able to take him down and get on top, he probably does sub him, but if not, it could get really ugly really quick. So I'm not going to go crazy on him, but Vieira definitely has to be mentioned. He has a 100% finish rate, and that's not something to be ignored. And then Carol Hoza, 8,600. I actually think Carol Hoza is a very sneaky play this week. So Carol Hoza, she's landing over 6 significant strikes per minute. Nora Cornhole, she's very hittable. Nora Cornhole's also aggressive. I think whoever wins this fight's actually going to score, pretty decently. And I think it's going to be a pretty low-owned fight as a whole. I could also see Carol Hoza mixing in some takedowns. She has in the past before. And I don't think Nora Cornhole has the best ground game. So, yeah, I think in a win, Carol Hoza could potentially score a lot better than people are expecting. So I think she's kind of a solid, sneaky look this week at 8,600. Getting into the live dogs, Nick Klein, 7,800. I don't like a ton of live dogs this week, but Nick Klein is got to be one of them. I just feel like this fight could really go either way. I don't know where the confidence for Pulev is really coming from. I'm not impressed with Pulev in the slightest. He looked okay in the Liam Anderson fight, but Liam Anderson is just not good at all. And yeah, I mean, Puliev's going to probably be the better striker. He's tall, he's rangy, but, I don't love the volume of Puliev. The ground game's questionable, and Nick Klein's definitely live to go out here, keep the fight close on the feet, and then also mix in some takedowns. I think Klein has some finish upside as well. So yeah, Klein would be probably my favorite dog on the card, which is kind of terrifying, but there's really not a ton sticking out here this week. Nor Cornhole, 7,600. So yeah, this is one of those fights where I think Carol Hosa should be landing a lot more, but it's going to be Nora Cornhole just coming forward, landing the harder shots, the more eye-catching shots to the judges, and I could definitely see a scenario where it's a damage versus volume type fight, and Nora Cornhole ends up winning a very close decision. Also, wouldn't completely shock me if it was Cornhole maybe getting a takedown here or there as well, but I do primarily expect this to take place standing, and I think Rosa is going to land a ton here, but I think Cornhole is going to land harder here. So we could get a situation where the judges do give the fight to Cornhole in a split decision type fight, and I do think this fight's going to decision way more often than not. Next, we got Chris Duncan, 7,200. Yeah, if you want to keep riding the Duncan train, nothing wrong with that. He just keeps getting it done and keeps getting it done as a dog, and he's a dog again. He has that guillotine. He has some power. I don't really love the matchup for him, but I didn't love the matchup for him against Vucenic, and he got a finish, and I didn't really love the matchup for him against Oki, and he got the finish. So I don't want to completely rule out Duncan here, although I don't love the matchup for him per se. And then Elvis Brenner, 7,100. Don't mind some Brenner here. I mean, Brenner has some wrestling upside. I mean, if he wants takedowns, he can absolutely get them against Esteban Ribovics. Ribovics has no takedown defense. Brenner's one of those guys that just has that dog in him. He's durable, so I think he can last at least late into the fight. And if he wins this fight at 7,100, I think he's going to score pretty well. So yeah, Brenner's absolutely a live dog here, and he's very cheap at 7,100. Getting into the pump plays here, Felipe Bunes, 6,700. And yeah, he's live. I mean, he's a massive underdog, but he has power on the feet. He has the striking advantage here against Rafael Estevam, who doesn't strike at all. And Estevam is taking this fight on somewhat short notice. Estevam doesn't have the best cardio in his own right. And Felipe Bunes has a 62% submission rate, which means he's going to be throwing up submissions the entire time. So yeah, there are some paths here for the massive dog of Felipe Bunes, and I don't mind some sprinkles on him this week. Fade is going to be Rinya Nakamura, 9,300, or 9,300 actually, which I still don't like. I don't like Nakamura this week. I think he wins this fight. I'd actually be kind of surprised if he lost this fight, but I can't trust him after his last fight. And even if he does go out here and wrestle, he's going to finish Nathan Fletcher. I'm not sure. He wasn't able to finish Fernie Garcia. He wasn't able to finish Carlos Vera, so I'm not sure he's able to finish... I'm not sure he's able to finish here in this matchup. So yeah, Rinya Nakamura is going to be a fade for me. I think there's much better options on the card. And there you have it. Thank you guys for watching. Kind of a weird week this week from a Draftkings perspective, but it should be a fun card. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to building some lineups after the weigh-ins. If you guys can do me a favor, like on your way out, subscribe. Also check out DFSbythenumbers.com. It's where you'll find all my DFS and betting content, fighter stats, target projections, ownership projections, rankings, lineup optimizer, DFS article, and much, much more. Check it out on DFSbythenumbers.com. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC Vegas 108, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.